You got to do that big old sip of coffee right at the start.
Mm-hmm.
My favourite complaint about like the top 10s videos I do is you don't have to announce when you're taking a sip of coffee. But then I also got comments of like, hey, I'm watching this in the background, and when you stop to take a sip of coffee, I don't know if my video stopped or not. So sometimes people like, stop announcing that you're taking a sip of coffee, but also please continue taking a sip of coffee. It's like, what do I do in that situation?
You know what? You continue doing exactly what you're doing, Karl. Just like...
That's the, someone's going to be pissed either way. I might as well do it the way I want.
Exactly, yeah. And I guess, speaking of doing what we want, we are doing another Wiki Weekends podcast. And
we are indeed, yes.
I am your host this week, Lucas Holland, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
And I don't know why I keep saying lovely every week. I used to change it up, and now I've gotten into the rhythm of it.
I like being lovely. That's the lovely... Because it's what you'd say, isn't it, when you were hosting a game show? It's like, and my lovely assistant. And you'd like motion towards a woman wearing an outfit. That's probably a bit sexist.
The lovely assistant, for anyone watching at least for Karl, is Snoot.
It is. Look at Snoot. It's great.
And Snoot is your little Anteater plush, right?
It's a stuffed Anteater, yes. It's just, I had it out during the stream I had the other day, and I just never bothered to clear my desk. Like, I cleared all the beer cans off my desk and stuff, but not this one.
And for anyone watching on video, you will notice that, I've tried to mix things up a little bit with my camera and just like try and get a better camera angle and stuff. So let us know in the comments if that looks a little bit nicer and fresher for everyone.
Yeah, because there's a lot of thing like in regards to like camera composition theory, and we're doing it basically with two ways it's possible to do a podcast of: directly head on, face clear with a soft background, or with space at the side where you put like pictures and stuff like that. It's great, like visual and. You either want visual symmetry or you want it to be asymmetrical.
So yeah, let us know which setup won this week.
So what's just going to... The thing is though, we can't move our setup. I keep getting this. Like, we don't have the green screen anymore. So, I miss when you had the green screen. It's like, so do I. It was a strong gimmick for the channel, but I've got 3 other recording jobs now and they can't have the same gimmick. Because while it was a strong gimmick for Fact Fiend, it'd be a bad thing to dilute that with other people's content.
Yeah, I find it funny as well because you've got like the little tiny green screen like piece of paper in the corner, and people keep being like, "Oh, could you utilize that green screen?" And I'm like, "It's washed out and got words written all over it. It's not really a green screen."
It's a little nod to the fact that we always used to have a green screen, but it's like, yeah, we've got 3 different videos and channels that record for, and you can't have like the same visual look across all. We do now.
And yeah, I guess just. I can't really say much to that, but welcome to our Wiki Weekdays podcast. And of course, every single week, both Karl and I bring a wiki to present to, you lovely folks listening or watching. And it is your job at the end of the podcast to let us know which wiki won this week. Yes. And of course, we always mean which wiki brought the best discussion, not necessarily which one is your favourite.
Lucas, you're telling people on the internet not to fanboy. That's always what happens.
We discussed Sonic last week, so we've gotten plenty of that out of the way.
I was howling when you sent that. Like, a guy posted like a 3,000 word rebuttal of like, you need to explain exactly why you don't like each and every 3D Sonic game. It's like, how about you fuck off the edge of my penis? Like, the thing is, we open that video by saying, if you don't like it, that's fine. People can criticize things that you like. And I think we put some pretty decent criticisms forward, while also, like, keeping the flow of conversation going.
And also trying to keep it like a light-hearted, jokey, kind of scenario.
And we even say multiple times that we like this thing. We like it. We're just going to joke about some aspects of it that aren't great, which is a thing you can do when you like something, because that would suggest that you've probably consumed more of the media in question than someone who doesn't.
A, we all know that nuance is dead on the internet, Karl, and B, we will never have as much experience with a dedicated hardcore fan of one specific subject.
Well, speaking of which, that's what I brought in today.
Oh, so what wiki have you brought for us this week, Karl?
Well, I brought a wiki from the Power Rangers wiki, Lucas.
Oh, okay.
And the character from Power Rangers I thought we could talk about is Lord Zedd.
Oh, right, okay, so one of the OGs.
So he's from the OG, he's from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like the original series. He's in the movie, but he's also in Mighty Morphin Season 2 and 3, Zeo Turbo, like Power Rangers in Space, Hyperforce, Dino Fury, and Cosmic Fury. He's in a lot of the show. And I'm guessing, like yourself, Lucas, your history with the Power Rangers brand is you watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as a kid, you watched the movie, you might have watched bits of Ninja Storm and Dino Fury, then you kind of died off as you got into more things like anime and stuff. So I think after Power Rangers, it was Pokemon. Then after Pokemon, that led me into like Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that, and Power Rangers kind of got left by the wayside.
Yeah, probably similar, but I think I may have stuck with a few more seasons like of Power Rangers because I remember watching like Nia or Zeo or something, and then In Space, and I can't remember, and like Turbo. I did watch those first like 2 or 3 next like shows after Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Power Rangers, it just went on for so long.
They're still going on, right?
Yeah, there's the thing as well where I say it's got a very dedicated fan base is like we'll be talking broadly mostly about Power Rangers Mighty Morphin. Like seasons
that we watched as a kid, bear in mind.
And there's going to be someone out there who's like obsessed with this series, who's like, you got this wrong, or it's like it goes into more depth in the comics. Like I'm sure it does, but I have neither the time nor the inclination. I'd rather enjoy my nostalgia because something I experienced. We spoke of the Sonic video. One of the things I was doing is I was watching like playthroughs of Sonic games to get clips and stuff. Yeah. And the amount of playthroughs of old Sonic games that start with the creators going, I used to love this game as a kid. And when you fast forward half an hour and they're like, this does not hold up.
I literally, the day that the Sonic Unleashed episode went out like a few days ago, I sat there and played a bit of Sonic Adventure 2 because I'd just finished like Spider-Man 2. And then I was like, oh yeah, okay, so like I'll go and just play a bit of Sonic Adventure 2 because we just talked about Sonic. And just getting through like one of the Sonic platform levels without just flying off the edge somewhere, it's like so difficult.
And it's like the Power Rangers, I always have that nostalgia for it. And the only Power Rangers bit of media I ever go back and consume is the movie, because the movie is so camp and so fun. Like that's the one with Ivan Ooze like gnawing the scenery in every scene that he's in. Whereas the show, I think everyone online knows now, it was cobbled together from like Super Sentai. And it's very obvious, like even just looking at it, like the quality of the film changes.
Yes,
and like the more subtle things, like the Yellow Ranger in the original like Japanese Super Sentai is a man. So like the little things like that. There's like mistakes where monsters will change their form between scenes. The explosions don't match. The environments don't match. It's got camp value still, and the acting is still so bad that it's good. But I just don't want to. The nostalgia I have for the series is too great that I'd never want to sully it.
Yes, and one thing I will mention before we get properly into it is that I did just mention that I beat Spider-Man 2 over the weekend.
Ah, yes.
And I forgot to mention this in the intro, apologies, but what we figured we'd do, because the game's only been out for like, I think like 10 days I was recording.
Something
a lot of people might not have beaten it yet. But what we're going to do next podcast is Karl and I are both going to bring a Spider-Man 2 related wiki, and we're going to just go full spoiler mode for that week. And just do Spider-Man 2 spoiler casts with, like, a couple of relevant wikis and just basically discuss what we thought of the game. We figured we'd give people a little bit of extra time. I know there's, like, a few ones floating around already that I've seen, but, like, give people a couple of weeks to finish the game.
Mate, before the game was even out, was already that overexposed thumbnail of the final cutscene of the game with, like, 5 million views that says Spider-Man 2 entire story cutscene 4K.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of not being in 4K, though.
Look forward to that next week. But yeah, Karl, bring us back to the Power Rangers.
So, if anyone who doesn't know, Lord Zedd, we have a quote from him here. This is his first words when appearing in the storm clouds over the Moon Palace. I am Lord Zedd, Emperor of all I see. You have failed to complete the mission assigned to you. I will now resume command. Prepare the palace for my return. And that's probably not that's as close as I can get to the voice. He's got such like a growly, monstery intonation to his voice. And his voice, and anyone curious, was done by Ed Neal. That was the suit actor, and the voice was Robert Axelrod, who was a singer and voice actor for the show. I believe
Robert Axelrod. That's a hell of a name.
Yeah, so just to double check, I'm pretty sure, so he was an American voice actor and musician, best known for playing Lord Zedd in the Power Rangers. He's also known for playing Microchip in Spider-Man, the animated series, and Wizardmon and Armadillomon in Digimon. And then the voice has since been done by actors like Steve Bloom, Malika Lim, Zach Eubank, Stig Eldred, Andrew Liang, and Fred Tatsasciore. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. And That guy, if anyone curious, you might have heard his name before, he's the guy who does the voice of the Incredible Hulk in nearly enough every animated feature.
Oh, cool.
So do you like that? The Incredible Hulk voice, like, leave Hulk alone! He's that guy. And I think the fact that he does that and Lord Zedd, but I can't do that growly thing with but I love Lord Zedd's voice.
It's very cool, yeah.
And I love the contrast between him and Rita Repulsa, who's got a similar quality, but it's that like old woman screeching noise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got that like really kind of just, yeah, as you say, like that screechy but growly overtone, but it's really high pitched, and they contrast each other really well. But they're both so over the top; it's fantastic.
They're so
like for a kid show.
Yeah. He just looks so metal as well, with like the giant. He's like the buff guy covered in armor, and like in the Power Rangers live action movie, I love right at the end where they're in the snow globe, and they're both cheering for the power and like go Rangers, go Rangers.
Like it is weird because like you go back and watch like Power Rangers, especially Mighty Morphin, and obviously
there's so
got, like,
much
the
sexual
intro.
tension between him and Rita Repulsa. I was just
going to say that it's so metal. Like the Power Ranger armor, like the monsters, the literal theme song.
Everything about Power Rangers. I wouldn't say it's metal. I'd say it's like, I think the term is butt rock. Where it's like power metal. Do you like over the top, like Dragon Force style? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's cheesy. It knows it's cheesy, but you're like, it's upbeat. It's loud. It's got guitar solos. It's got dumb imagery, like dragons and dinosaurs and robots.
As much as like it is a dumb kid show, like a lot of the imagery and a lot of the music is like really kind of, I should say, like power metal butt rock. Like considering, you know, we were kids and we didn't know better, we've probably been influenced like way more than we even realized by that.
I struggle to think of images from my childhood that's more hype than the Green Ranger rocking up, playing the dagger like a flute, and fucking Godzilla turns up. Just dun, 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 dun. And then, like, the fact they get into their robots by flying, kicking towards them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Oh, but no, Lord Zedd, often referring to himself as the Emperor of Evil, is the true leader of the evil space aliens and one of the main antagonists of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and one of the secondary antagonists of Power Rangers Zeo, and the main antagonist, once again, of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. And we have, like, just some basic biographical information about him here. His homeworld is unknown, his gender is male, and then some. It's like, he's so much man. He's so much man.
Was it that Lord Zedd was in the first season, or was Lord Zedd then brought in for like season 2 as like a...
I think he's season 2 of Mighty Morphin, where it's like Rita Repulsa just keeps getting a shit pushed in, and he rocks up as like the secondary antagonist of like his intro is like, look, you failed to complete the mission, so I'm rocking up and doing this. And he continues to job just as hard. And my favourite bit is like just... The bits of banter between him and Rita Repulsa, especially in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, where they're just an old couple. And the decision to play them as a bickering old couple is so good.
But yeah, he turns up. And I think in maybe his first episode, he might have like been the actual like enemy that grew and fought the Megazords. I can't remember. I remember him doing that at some point, but like...
I think there's one episode where he does go down and does it himself because he's pissed off with the putties getting their ass kicked.
And then, yeah, just as you say, it just continues to just be a jobber for then, like, season 2 and 3. It's like, well, if you can't get it done, what did you expect Rita to do as well?
To be fair, though, every single fight against the Power Rangers is by default 5-on-1. It's just not fair, is it? It's like,
6-on-1 eventually.
Oh, yeah. So he's just fighting the Ginyu Force, innit? Of, like, just fight 6 people at once. But I've got just a little thing for you here, Lucas. And he has a secondary form called Master Zedd, where he just gets even more metal. He's got armor on. Look at that bullshit on Discord.
I forgot that he had like 2 forms.
That's in like Neo or Zeo or something.
Oh, yes, yeah. When he's not the pimp gold armor, he's got like the more almost like fleshy look to the armor.
Yeah, and like, do you care about his history at all? I guess like his history, but then the rest of it is just like, here's every episode of the Power Rangers he appeared in. Mm-hmm. So he says that it's mentioned by Rita Repulsa again. Just I love their dynamic, like married old bickering couple. And Goldar's like their failure of a son who can never get anything done. Still living in the house with them.
Just give me 1 sec. I just need to... I think I'm recording my screen rather than recording the Discord, like, actual app. So when I just changed my screen then, it just changed a bit. So give me a sec. So I don't know if it's done that in other recordings, but, like, I noticed it that time.
Okay, so bring it back to Lord Zedd's history. It's mentioned by Rita that Zedd tried to take control of the Zeo crystal for himself in the ancient past. However, because the crystal was protected by a force field which damages the forces of evil, the attempts caused his skin to burn off, which gave him his appearance. Oh, that's so metal.
Oh, God.
And he's just walking around as a burn victim. So the Power Rangers beating up a burn victim. Go. Due to some unspecified failure, Lord Zedd stripped Gold out of his wings, and because he did not think Earth was important enough to warrant his attention, being to him just a stepping stone to conquer the entire solar system, he left Rita Repulsa to conquer it herself while he pursued conquest of other systems, leaving a group of minions behind to help her. And then he comes back in season 2 after, she just gets her ass kicked.
And just obviously it's Power Rangers, it only focuses on Earth, but it never actually mentions that he was successful in taking over any other systems. Do you reckon he just, failed and came back to Earth?
It's basically, very Frieza-esque of he's, the Emperor of Evil, the conqueror of various solar systems. But, what I said, I've mentioned it multiple times, actually got cut when we were doing, the screen checking thing, but the idea of choosing to play them like a bickering old married couple is so funny. And that's why I say the Power Rangers movie still holds up for pure camp of him and Rita Repulsa coming in, and then you have Ivan Ooze come in. And I just love the part where they're all arguing with Ivan Ooze, and Rita's like, finally, a real man. And Lord Zedd's like, what? He gets offended by the idea of she calls him a real man, and he gets offended by it.
Yeah.
So I said the amount of sexual tension between those two is unreal.
I find it really funny as well that Lord Zedd, Emperor of Evil, Conqueror of Systems, is getting jealous of Ivan Ooze, who's oh, teenagers.
Do you know the best bit as well? Why doesn't Lord Zedd try and take over any other city on Earth? He specifically targets Angel Grove every time. It's why don't you just go to Sheffield? The Power Rangers aren't going to come to Sheffield. Start there.
You think he can take down the steel miners, Karl?
That's fair, yeah. So, and moving swiftly, so the history is just every episode he appeared in, which obviously there's way too much to get into there. We just want to cover the good stuff, which is also personality, powers, and abilities.
Before the comments come at me, I know you don't mind steel. It's just the Steel City. It's just making a joke.
Okay. They're complaining about the Power Rangers anyway. So personality, and this is a quote from Lord Zedd again. There is a saying in this universe. I'll do it in his voice, fuck it. There's a saying in this universe. No peace for the strongest, only survival. Think of all the warlords and emperors that came before me. They all failed and then were destroyed. People of power, including Rangers, will always tear the top dog down. And if you're down, you're done for. The only way to survive is to stay on top. That's why I must become the most powerful being there. It's Frieza. Come on, Frieza. It's just Frieza, isn't it?
And I love how, because it's so strenuous on your voice, you just slowly slip out. Because
I have big respect for any voice actor who can do specifically those kind. That I said, Fred Tatsaschiori, who does the Hulk's voice, and he's a 70-year-old man, and you see him in the recording booth doing the Hulk, and he has to do that thing, Joe, where you grab your throat. He basically has to grab his throat to do the full voice. We've talked before about D. Bradley Baker, who does the voice of the Theron guards.
Yeah,
where he has to cough up loads of phlegm into the back of his throat, so he can do the punish sort of thing.
Well, there's a fact going background at the moment about Matthew Lillard of when he wanted to audition for Shaggy.
Screamed himself hoarse every day.
Screamed until his throat was just completely fucked.
Same thing.
Then just realised, oh wait, if I'm going to do this for an entire movie, this is not a viable option.
I'm not going to have a voice left. It's the same thing with David Hayter for Old Snake. It killed his voice so much he was doing shots of Jack Daniels between takes to just to deal with the pain caused by his voice. And that's the thing. Just imagine that Lord Zedd voice, Rangers. It hurts. It does.
Yeah. If you're not doing it in a safe way that you've practiced, it can really damage your throat.
Yeah, and that's one of the things of a lot of professional voice actors, they will say, those things that you'll hear those tips, you could smoke and drink to give yourself that voice, that husky quality. It's a good voice actor can emulate that without damaging their body and throat with alcohol and drugs. It's your voice is your instrument, it's your livelihood, and without it, you won't be able to be a voice actor very long. So look at the most successful voice actors are still doing it long into their 60s, 70s, 80s in some cases. Alan Oppenheimer, the voice of Skeletor, I believe was 90 nearly, and he still voice acts. And he can still do the Skeletor voice.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yep. Well, personality-wise, in his debut appearance and the 40 episodes thereafter, Lord Zedd starts off as very menacing, sadistic, and megalomaniacal. He loves it, doesn't he?
I love how it's like starts off evil and sadistic and then just quickly becomes like
comic relief.
It's really hard to still be that evil, threatening person when you've been beaten like 80 times.
Yeah. He coldly abused his lackeys, silencing Goldar and others frequently and blaming them for most failures rather than taking responsibility himself, which is fair enough, yeah. Like, if you gave Rita Repulsa 85 giant monsters and she can't beat one group of like teenagers in one city, it's kind of, it's like, you've got, and what I never understood, and I know why, it's because the episode would be 5 minutes long. It's like, why doesn't Rita Repulsa make the monster grow right at the start?
And yeah, that's the answer.
Make my monster grow! It's like, do that straight away.
It's like, did you really have faith in them being like 4 foot tall? Did you think that was going to work?
There we go. So, however, during and after the episode The Wedding, thanks to Rita Repulsa's love potion, his personality changed to a mostly loving and caring a person around Rita exclusively, but he still abused her and others when he didn't get his way. For example, during their first marital argument, he silenced Rita and demanded her respect from him when she blamed him for their most recent failure and then refused to comply to her listening to him and then on. Which is not well written, which is the Power Rangers Wiki give us a little bit of, and that again, like in the Power Rangers the movie, where Ivan Ooze just like throws the goo at like Rita Repulsa, like, finally someone shut her up. It's like just a bickering old couple.
That's the thing, is the Power Rangers Wiki might not be like, you know, written well, but neither is the Power Rangers, so
it's fine.
What are you gonna do about it?
Lord Zedd harboured a lot of disrespect for his in-law, Master Vile, especially when he got pushed to the side, and also expressed disdain for having stopped them from destroying Angel Grove. He is shown to hate being called Ed, as he yells at Rito and Alpha 5 when they call him that. Zedd also showed some sexist traits, as seen in Best Man for the Job, when he called Rita Repulsa incompetent because of her gender and for no other reason. There it is, old bickering married couple. Show written in the 90s.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a show from 30 years ago.
Thing is, though, like, Rita Repulsa, have you seen, like, in that Power Rangers fighting game, Rita Repulsa's in it, and she's got, like, fly-on-fly Doctor Doom style combos. She's unstoppable.
Is it, like, classic Mighty Morphin Rita?
Yeah. It's not the same voice actors, obviously, but it's classic Rita, and you have classic Lord Zedd.
Yeah, because, like, obviously there's, like, the Rita Repulsa design for the Power Rangers movie, where obviously it was like a much younger woman.
God, that movie sucks so much ass.
It was just bland, which, like, how do you make Power Rangers bland?
Yeah.
It's like it was okay acted, casted, shot, it was fine. But, like, the fact that Power Rangers was fine and a bit boring was like, how do you manage this?
Mm-hmm. And Joel, is the ending to his story is in regards to his personality and characterization. He became the main antagonist of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. In the final battle, he became trapped in a fantasy/nightmare where he had destroyed the Power Rangers and conquered the entire universe, but was now stuck catering to the whims of his wife, Rita Repulsa, for all of eternity. So they've become a married, bickering couple for all eternity. He gets to rule the universe, but he's got to do it with Rita Repulsa.
I do like that as an idea of like, oh yeah, he finally gets his way and realizes he has no drive left in the world.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's like, again, it's the Freezer thing of like, he wants to conquer the universe, but he's bored. But he's bored, he's so powerful, nothing challenging. And it's like, I think it's the same thing with like Lord Zedd. He secretly really does love the constant conflict with the Power Rangers. It gives him something to do. Mm-hmm. Like, complete and total unchecked power is like a life without challenge, which would be like, it'd be just endlessly frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have powers and abilities. So should we discuss the powers and abilities of Master Zedd?
Yeah, I'm curious what like actual powers they have besides like, oh, they're strong and can make creatures grow.
Yeah, so powers, just his overall like inherent latent magical power. So Lord Zedd was more powerful than any of his minions and the original Power Rangers, possibly being on par with Zordon himself. In terms of overall sheer power, his powers, while formidable, are still weaker than characters like Master Vile, King Mondo, and Dark Spectre. Classic, like shonen trope there of there's always a stronger villain. But because he's the most popular one, he keeps coming back and getting more power anyway. Though to his credit, Lord Zedd is the better known and more feared villain of the four, being one of the most notorious villains in Power Ranger history.
Yeah, another, perfect allegory for Frieza, isn't it? Of, well, he was the most popular, so we kept just bringing him back with bigger upgrades.
Yeah, super strength. Lord Zedd has superhuman physical strength. Being able to pick up the character Void Knight clear above his head with one hand and send him flying across the room with a throw. He did the same thing to Slither, sending them flying across the room with a single kick. And I'm just imagining doing the fucking Sparta kick. Boom! The Lord Zedd kick. Immortality. Lord Zedd has known to have lived for at least 10,000 years without aging a single day.
Again, yeah, infinite power and immortality are how would you end up not just being bored?
Yeah. Growth bomb generation. Lord Zedd could generate white lightning around his palm to generate a grenade, which he could then throw to the earth or it would explode upon contact on the ground, and the explosion would enlarge the monster. Sometimes the monster will grab it and slam it on the ground themselves. And the fact that he's throwing a grenade all the way to Earth with that accuracy is unbelievable. It's like when Rita Repulsa throws her staff, and she throws it all the way from the moon to a specific spot on planet Earth with pinpoint accuracy every single time.
It's like when you put Call of Duty to veteran difficulty, isn't it? And just every grenade lands exactly at your feet, and you're like, no, stop.
Here's the thing. Go back and play the original Modern Warfare on veteran difficulty. Grenades roll uphill. Grenades are so terrifying. Conjuration. He was able to conjure objects out of thin air, such as a staff or growth bombs. He has telescopic vision. His vision was so accurate he could see what was happening on Earth just by looking at the planet.
Oh
and that's the thing is that, he just looks at the planet and knows what's going on.
Because I was thinking, doesn't Rita use the crystal ball or whatever to see what's going on?
Doesn't need that. He just looks and sees it. He can also see what's happening on another planet because he just looked. They went to a planet called Edenoi, and he just looked over where it was and saw the Power Rangers.
Oh my god!
He could teleport to any known location. Electric strike. He could charge his fist with white electricity and slam it down his balcony's railing with enough force to bend the metal.
Okay. It's not quite as impressive as, the other abilities he's got, but yeah.
He can summon lightning bolts, dimensional gateway opening. He was able to open a dimensional gateway to a lost universe to blast the Power Rangers through. But his bad aim made the scheme a dismal failure. How was his aim that bad if he could throw the grenade all the way to Earth? Telepathic communication. Zedd was able to focus his mind and talk to a villain telepathically. He has power sleep. Lord Zedd was able to recharge his power by going to sleep once every 100 years. How long he had to do this at a time remained unclear, since Rita's love potion interrupted it, but it was to last at least several hours.
Hours? To recharge
sleep every 100
years? God, if only.
Shockwave brain blast. In one fight scene, Lord Zedd was able to fire a pink shockwave-like blast from his brain, strong enough to knock down all 5 Rangers with a single hit. Lightning beams. He can shoot lightning beams at the same kind of ability. Monster creation. Rita and Zedd could do a synchronized dance to chant and fire forth orange energy projections of their faces that created the Hate Master. They do the what's it called? The Patara dance. No, it's Patara earrings and the what's the dance?
I think it's just the fusion dance, isn't it?
Fusion dance. To create they just do a fusion dance and create a super rage monster.
I don't remember what the Hate Master was, but yeah. The fact that they're just firing giant copies of their faces
just
down to Earth.
It's coming in. Abilities. Hand-to-hand combatant. Outside of his vast magical capabilities, Lord Zedd proved to be an excellent hand-to-hand fighter, easily defeating Tommy in battle. So he's able to defeat the white, the green, the black, the red, every ranger, basically. Mm-hmm. He used box strikes and staff wings combined with his formidable magical abilities, while Tommy resorted to his usual martial arts. He was also stronger than Void Knight and his minions, and also defeated all 5 Dino Fury Rangers, as well as Wolfgang and Brine Blast with ease. And that's the thing as well, it's that thing of the villain is stronger than all his minions, he just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, and it's obviously for dramatic effect, he's every now and then got to be able to nearly defeat the Power Rangers, but then he can't ultimately, and they've got to defeat him in some bullshit way. But when you add up all those powers of he's got several blasts that can take out the entire Power Rangers team in one go.
Just do that every time.
teleportation, dimension portals, like immortality. It's like, what are you doing?
And usually with stuff like this, it's the weakness is ego.
Yeah.
Is that he could do that, but he doesn't want to. He wants to defeat them in a way that makes him feel smart. Like he could go down and beat him up with his bare hands. That just doesn't feel very satisfying. And again, I think it's that he wants to do it in a way that feels satisfying and just blow him up. Like he could blow the planet up if he fucking wanted to.
Probably, yeah.
But where would be the satisfaction in that? So, expert tactician, Lord Zedd also seems to have a more tactical mind compared to his subordinate and wife, Rita Repulsa. Many of his plans involve trying to cause confusion or division among the Rangers, seeing as he realised their teamwork was their greatest asset, and that's where, like, they take over like Tommy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't understand why you can't just teleport in when, like, all in separate classes and just stab them in the back.
Yeah. Just
imagine
class.
he just rocks up while they're just high school kids in school. Like, just what do you do?
Like just drop the fucking moon on the planet. Psychological warfare. Concerning his monsters, Lord Zedd also tends to create them from items personally important to one or more of the Rangers, attacking them psychologically as well as physically in the hopes of making them useless in his war with Zordon.
Mm-hmm. Just, we all know that those 30-year-old teenagers, they can be quite hormonal.
Yeah, good American football player. In the episode, 4th Down and Long, Lord Zedd was skilled at playing football with the creature centre back. Just imagine.
Centre back.
Just
oh
him
my
playing
God.
American football and like dancing on the fucking like 10-yard line. He's also an expert Zord pilot. He was able to expertly pilot Serpentera with no issues in the wedding part 3.
I mean, yeah, I kind of wish that there would be more evil Zords. That would be kind of cool.
I just love the idea that I think there is, like you said, there's an episode where he just becomes big himself and just goes down and beats up the Zord.
Yeah.
Weaknesses, laws of nature. Lord Zedd apparently could not defy the laws of nature or the universe, which was explained by Zordon in one episode. When the writer was trying to explain why he couldn't just use magic to germinate the Terra Blossom seeds without needing a heat source. He also, despite being immensely powerful as a wizard, requires his Z staff to use most of his magic. If it was broken, as happened when he fought Tommy, he would be unable to fight or cast spells, forcing him to retreat.
I mean, I guess that makes sense in terms of, like, a magical character with a staff is, like, most fiction, they require the staff to do the complex magic.
And speaking of his staff, that has its own powers and abilities. It's lightning generation, monster creation, monster materialization, Z-putty creation, vaporization, mind control, wind generation, resurrection, conjuration, and communication. He was also able to curse objects with his staff, cause monsters to grow, fire lasers, energy fields, and fireballs.
That staff is, like, basically the Avatar. It's got, like, control over all the elements.
It also looks rad as fuck. It is a great bit of branding. It's got a big Z on it. And I do love the episodes where you can tell the actor can't see, so he holds his staff the wrong way around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes he just holds his staff the wrong way around, so like the Z's the wrong way around. And then we have some notes and trivia. Do you want to end on a little bit of notes and trivia about Lord Zedd?
That sounds good, yeah.
So, Lord Zedd was the first Power Ranger villain to be Power Rangers exclusive and not derived from the Super Sentai series. So he's a wholly original Power Rangers creation, which is why I wanted to talk about him. Right, he's the first like wholly original thing they created for the series. He's not at all in the the Super Sentai series, which is why it's funny that they created their own OC and then made him marry Rita Repulsa.
Yeah, it's difficult because, like, obviously it's hard to remember what each episode looked like spliced up, but I guess, they could just film scenes with him just, like, on the side in, like, the thing, and then be like, oh, I'm going to make my monster grow or whatever, and then throw a staff, and then all of a sudden the monster grows.
Well, that's one of the fascinating
footage. And,
one of the fascinating things about the show is how they cobbled it together. And I think at some point they did get, like, Super Sentai Studios, like, can you just send us the old costumes for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series? I think it was for them, it was like ZU Ranger something or other. They just got sent them because obviously in Japan, every couple of years they just reboot the entire series. So they had the old costumes lying about. So they sent them through to America so they could film their own stuff. Like, for example, like characters taking the helmet off. Things like that. They wanted to have like more shots of the characters out of the costumes or like halfway dressed into them to create more verisimilitude of the universe.
And that's kind of like why I think it's fun to go back and watch the movie more so than the TV show, I should say, because obviously all of that is shot just for the movie's sake, so there isn't that awkward transition of like chopping and changing.
Yeah.
And it feels more, as it should, it feels more all together because it was literally made all together.
And for me as well, it just feels like there's a couple of moments that I maybe top it, but for me, it is the quintessential Power Rangers experience. The only other one that might top it, there's not that episode that they filmed where, like, because they couldn't get half the people back anyway, so it feels kind of shitty. So that one for Netflix where they try to bring everyone back, but they couldn't.
Oh, I thought you were originally talking about like the one where there's like 90 Rangers on screen.
No, that I was going to say, there's that one, which is Rangers Forever, which is where they have like every single Power Ranger turn up, including the Mighty Morphin Power, and it's fucking sick. And it's the one where you have like 15 Red Rangers. And you also have Forever Red, which is every Red Ranger at once fighting. But then there's and then there's one season where the gimmick is that they can turn into Power Rangers from other seasons.
Ooh.
And they have an episode, they go Mighty Morphin, and it's like, fuck it. And the outfits look so good. Because obviously it's the updated versions. Like, in the movie, they've got like the armor and stuff on there, which looks better for a movie, but it's not the classic design. And they have the updated like spandex designs in that show, and that's pretty good. But still,
I do think one of my favourite things about the movie version, though, is that you get little headlights in the eyes on the helmet.
My favourite bit about that is all the bullshit stuff they have for one scene, where it's like, activating power scope, and he just has like a visor that scans the dark for like 12 seconds. Or when Kimberly whips out like the pterodactyl thunder whip, and just has one of the best voice lines of like, never leave home without it. She just whips out like the little whip, and all it does, he just hit people in the throat.
And yeah, it's literally one scene where they're like, here's all the gimmicks to never be seen again.
Which I thought was fun. Like, they're all references to like old stuff from the show, and I like that. Or like where Saba comes in and Saba just fucking annihilates everyone.
So it's like, he throws it as the sword, but then the sword flies around and just shoots lasers instead. Shoots a little shitty laser out of his eyes. That looks so bad. She just goes, and it's so shit, but I love it. I love that how bad it is, and I love that it captures the feeling of watching. Because like, when you're watching it as a kid, that's what you imagined it was like. Yeah. And I was literally doing that, in my living room with all my Power Rangers toys, like pretending to recreate that shit because it was fun. That's what that would have been, yeah. And as an adult, I really appreciate, like I said, Lord Zedd. Because we all know the villains are always the funniest part of movies like that. And I love, like, Ivan Ooze is clearly... The actor apparently was having so much fun. Oh, yeah, it seems like it. You can tell that he was having so much fucking fun. Like, where he's just, like, saying, I smell teenagers. I was going to say, we always refer to, like, just, like, that intro of his. It's so iconic of him immediately at that birthing and just being like, teenagers. I still smell them. Yeah, one of the funniest things in the entire like film, and it's the little detail that I missed for years, and it's just one of those things that he's just so stupid. And he's like, when he first gets born, there's like police line do not cross tape in front of him, and he just walks through and it catches fire. I don't know why that little detail. He just walks through and it catches fire because obviously he's just got magic powers. Like, fuck it. Yeah, that's Lord Zedd from the Power Rangers. Like, hot damn. What a character. Yeah, and what a character, what a show, what a fantastic series from such a dumb idea of, like, we're just going to take Super Sentai footage and fart it out. And it's like, yep. Man, do you remember that, like, season of Super Sentai where the gimmick was trains? I don't remember that. But... Joe, that did not sell well over here because obviously you went from dinosaurs to ninjas to dinosaurs again to spaceships, and then one season was just trains. And I'm like, how do we sell this? Americans don't know what public transport is. Yeah, like, trains can be cool, but can they be cool as, like, space dinosaurs? Godzilla. Yeah. Like White Falcon Zord, let's go. I still love the bit where the White Falcon Zord comes in. It's like, yeah, White Falcon Zord. Let's go. So cool. What have you brought for us, Lucas? I've brought for us a nice little break so I can run the toilet. Perfect. Yes, I'll get myself another coffee, but hell goddamn yeah. And after the break, we're going to be talking about some Mario. Exciting. We are back. We are indeed, yes. You mentioned something about Mario? I did indeed, but I was just going to say, before we get into my wiki, have you got anything that you'd like to plug this week? Oh, nothing besides my my streams and stuff. So if you want to see like some high-pass shit, you go check out my streams. Every Friday, Metal Gear Vengeance with a few beers. Let's go. I mean, I will also plug my Twitch, of course, and Karl is at Karlswood, and I am Legend of Kanto. You can find links to both of our Twitches down below. But also for anyone that, is a fan of our Fat Fiend work, just a reminder that there's some new merch on pre-order at the moment as well.
Worn that. I'll wait for the next video I do.
Yes, yeah.
It's on pre-sale for a couple of weeks.
Until November 8th, I think. The Sage of Secrets t-shirt. So if you're, listening the first week this is published, we do have a new t-shirt up for pre-order, and we also have some new enamel pins you can go get as well.
Yes, which are based on the Fat Fiend design, reimagined as a chibi girl. You know what, people like cute anime girls, so turn my logo into one. Easy money, right?
Well, it's really cute, yeah. I really like the pins and the emotes and stuff you made from that.
Yeah, it's like there are emotes on my channel, and just one of them just pointing at the screen saying, every time someone subs, it just points, it goes, "You've got a big dick." There you go. So, why not? Why not just compliment people on the width and girth?
And subbing over on my channel helps towards Karl and I playing Mass Effect 2 soon.
Yes, Mass Effect Mondays.
Mass Effect Mondays may return for Mass Effect 2, and presumably eventually 3 if I can hit that goal as well.
And then Andromeda, so we can just leave it on and just turn the channel off.
Just the death of the channel. I'm just watching Andromeda not play itself.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for listening to all those, and go check out the links down below. I'll pop the merch link as well in there for everyone that wants to go check that out. But Karl, I wanted to talk about Mario because, of course, Super Mario Bros. Wonder just recently released, and
it did, yes.
I have not had the chance to play it yet because I'm budgeting for Christmas and stuff. So I'm I guess I'll just ask for that for a present or something.
There was a lot of games out. We had within the space of about 4 months, we had Mortal Kombat 1, Tekken 8's coming out, there's been Baldur's Gate, there's been Resident Evil 4 came out a couple months before that. Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man, yeah. Alan Wake's just come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario. And there's been a ton of games over just the last couple of months alone.
Yeah, I have seen the break. This might be one of the best games. Since 1998 and 2010, this could be one of the strongest years in gaming.
It probably will end up being, by the time you add everything up, how many just nigh on perfect games have come out just this year alone.
Yeah. There's returns to form of classic series, as well as new series and sequels and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, in terms of Mario, we could go back to where it all began, which, you could be argued is 3 different points in time.
Yeah, it's where did Mario come from? It's is it the first Mario game? Is it Donkey Kong?
Because there's Donkey Kong where Mario first appeared was playable there, and then there's also the fact that Mario Bros, but we are of course talking about just the most famous one of them all, which is Super Mario Bros, the beginning of that series.
Yes.
And we are of course talking the 1985 NES game or Nintendo Entertainment System game. And that is the successor to the 1983 arcade game Mario Bros. And the first game in the Super Mario series, released for the Famicom in Japan.
Possibly one of the strongest, simplest, and most versatile naming conventions for a sequel. And it's the sequel, what's it got? Super. It's everything you loved about the original, souped up. It's super.
And where's the Super Switch? Please call it the Super Switch.
Super Switch, Super Nintendo Entertainment. It's the fact that they refuse to acknowledge it. It's the Super Wii, the Super Switch.
Yeah, the Wii U was not it. Just go back to calling your sequel console the Super Switch.
If they call it the Super Switch, the SWR. Then we just call it the Switch.
And it actually got a US release. For the NES, and it doesn't actually say when the NES version came out. Oh no, there you go. So it's ported to International Arcades in 1986, and then the NES received a version for North America and PAL regions in 1987.
That feels like such a weird game to play in an arcade.
It does, yeah. It's I guess there is still the 3 live system and all that, and then when you get game over, you just start again. So it does make sense, but it's not as much a traditional arcade game as most of the the single screen arcade games like Pac-Man or something like that.
Yeah, I do know that like Mario is one of the closest games we've gotten to being solved. Because have you ever seen the breakdown from speedrunners of like Mario is probably the closest game we're ever going to get, because obviously as games get more complex, the things you can do to maximize the efficiency you play becomes like infinite. Whereas with Super Mario, like the most possible perfect run has gone through like Tool and Sister speed running of like basically getting a computer to play through frame by frame is only literally frames away from what humans are capable of. Like with like this close to perfecting Mario.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I'm pretty sure we're only literally like within a few frames away from like somebody playing the most perfect game of Mario possible ever.
No, like a theoretically perfect run through the game where no time whatsoever is wasted.
And that's the thing is like that sounds ridiculous, but when you think the speedruns of that game are like what, sub 5 minutes?
About 5 minutes, yeah.
So like speedrunners just can churn and churn and churn. Like it's not one of those speedruns where you're like, oh well, I did that in like 5 hours and 50 minutes instead of 5 hours and 49. It's like, no, it's a few minutes.
I do like though, you've seen the speedrun for Baldur's Gate 3. You kill one of your party members, shove her in a barrel and throw her at the final boss. And you can complete the entire game in 5 minutes.
That sounds like those Far Cry ones where it's like, oh yeah, you can just like kill the boss immediately or just wait in a room.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate ones like that, but it does make, I guess, for a boring like AGDQ run.
Yeah, but you just put your teammate into a barrel and throw them out of bounds, and it happens to land exactly where the final boss is, so the final boss just dies and the credits roll.
Oh god, that's great. Yeah, I do appreciate any game that's like, well, the boss is dead. Like, game's over, I guess.
Yeah.
And it does fulfill like the perfect role-playing kind of experience.
That's D&D, isn't it? Like, I just min-max the fuck out of it, so it's not fun to watch anymore. There's nothing more like D&D. There's nothing more D&D than someone min-maxing it to the point where it's not fun. So every time I play that game, someone's like, well, the first thing you want to do is respec all your characters to give them like the maximum 20 points in the only stat that matters for their damage. It's like, well, that's no fun.
Yeah.
And it's like every time you say, oh, this fight's a bit difficult. It's like, well, you need to respec your character. It's like, it's a role-playing game, and I don't want to role-play as a perfect, incorruptible cinnamon bun, because that's not fun. And so the people are like, what do you mean? But you want to min-max everything so you win all the time, right?
I mean, I guess
sometimes
that's fun for some people.
Sometimes it's the journey. And speaking of the journey, how has the journey of Mario come to existence?
Well, I mean, the journey of Mario is that, you know, the player controls Mario and they traverse across the Mushroom Kingdom to rescue Princess Toadstool from King Koopa.
She was Toadstool then. It was King Koopa, not Bowser.
Yeah, so it was Princess Toadstool and King Koopa, which obviously then later down the line became Peach and Bowser. So
where do you fall on this then? Because like, this is like our generation's equivalent of like Marathon becoming Snickers. And like, do you like adults still refer to like Snickers bars as Marathon because that was the name they got for a rebrand? Do you still consider Princess Peach to be Princess Toadstool and Bowser to be King Koopa?
Not really. I don't think that like it lasted long enough in my lifetime for it to really have an impact. Like, I did play Super Mario All-Stars as a kid and Mario World, and like, they were there, but I think it was even from like Super Mario 64 when I was 4 years old that like Princess Peach was Princess Peach, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And this as well, just like it's I think the names work better. I think Princess Peach is a much better name to the alliteration, whereas Bowser sounds scarier than King Koopa. Like King Koopa still has the alliteration, but it's not as funny. Like it sounds funnier than Bowser. Like Bowser has, just it sounds threatening.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, like they are still Princess Peach and King Bowser, but they're just colloquially known as just Peach and Bowser nowadays. But I think the King part of it sounds more intimidating, but again, he's still technically named King Bowser now.
He still wears a crown every now and again.
And like, I guess I just prefer the names now because we've had them for a lot longer. I'm sure if we'd spent like our entire childhood knowing them as Toadstool and Koopa, we probably, just wouldn't have let go of those names. But it's just literally just, you traverse across side-scrolling stages while avoiding hazards such as enemies and pits with the aid of power-ups such as the Super Mushroom, the Fire Flower, and the Starman.
And here's a thing for me as well. Have you ever partaken in the argument of what is Mario's default state?
Yeah, because technically, like, when you're Mario that's bigger, you're Super Mario there.
Yeah, but that's like his default state for pretty much every 3D game.
And that's what he is drawn as, like, on the box art and everything.
Like, is Super Mario his default state, and Little Mario, Small Mario as he's often called, is that like him when he's in the human world?
Maybe.
Because he doesn't grow anymore, does he, in later games? He doesn't grow bigger when he uses a mushroom.
No, but does that imply that when you're playing, like, Super Mario 64 or Mario Odyssey or whatever, like, when you get a mushroom and don't grow, that means you're already in the super form?
Yeah. Like,
that's what that's implying, right? Like, I do like, though, Squat Mario from Super Mario RPG.
Oh, I love, like, Squat, like, where he crouches and hides under his hat. It's so good.
Oh, no, I don't mean while he's squatting. I mean, like, in Super Mario RPG, Mario's, like, character model is just really, like, squat and fat.
Oh, yeah, because it's for the sprite work, of course, yeah. To more visually differentiate from Luigi.
And I do really enjoy the fact that they've kind of kept with that art style for the remake as well. Like, they haven't made a modern Mario and just made him look like he normally does. It's like they've really kept to that design for the original Super Mario RPG.
It's such a flawless design. It's so perfect. So I think we've talked about in the past, and it's a great breakdown I like of a good character design is one that a 5-year-old can draw and an adult can tell what that character is. That's a good character. That's like. And do you think like all the best like character designs like Mario, Pikachu, like a lot of like the more popular Pokemon, Link, like a 5-year-old could draw that character from memory, and as an adult you go, I know who that character is.
Say for example Mario or Luigi, it's just like red and blue dungarees with a red hat, or green and blue dungarees for Luigi with a green hat.
Yep.
And then like Link, just the green tunic with a green pointy hat.
Yep. And that's what I love about that, and that's why when we talk about character designs, like where it's over designed or it's too edgy, so there's too much, it's too busy. There's too much going on. And Mario, I've always appreciated every now and again they try. Say, let's like what is it? Mario Sunshine. He wears shorter sleeves now because it's a bit sunny.
Yeah, and he has the flood backpack, of course, but that's more gameplay mechanics.
But he always wears those red overalls. Like that's always his default outfit. And it's like. Mario is
apart from when you unlock the Hawaiian shirt and shades at the end of Super Mario Sunshine for like completion bonus.
It's like that's the one.
That's when he's truly on holiday.
But I appreciate that like they've realised we've got one of the most easily identifiable, widely recognised designs of any character in Western fiction. Why would we? No, obviously comes from Japan, like in fiction almost. And why would we ever change it?
There's that argument, isn't there, of especially since the movie came out. Is like if you would ask a kid now, or like even a younger person now, is Mario way more famous and recognizable than Mickey Mouse is?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, not necessarily the Mickey Mouse, like
logo,
head,
the
logo, but Mickey Mouse as a character.
No, that's it. Mickey Mouse is mostly used for like marketing purposes.
Yeah, and there is that that animated Mickey show nowadays. So Mickey
really
does have like an animated presence. So it looks really good, yeah. But Mario's just obviously everywhere now, and like I don't know anyone that hasn't played Mario Kart at some point in their life, with like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling like 50-something million copies or whatever.
Yeah, it's the thing that goes around every now and again, isn't it? Of like, what is the most recognizable character? And it's usually like a 3-way tie between Mario, Pikachu, and Hello Kitty.
Yeah, and it does say here as well, according to this Wikipedia page, we're just on Wikipedia, that it is cited as one of the greatest games of all time, of course. It has been re-released on most Nintendo systems, is one of the best-selling games of all time, with more than 58 million copies sold worldwide. And I'm like, I wonder what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold. Like, has it approached the sales of Super Mario Brothers?
Well, that's the thing, like, GTA has sold, like, 100 million copies?
Something crazy,
yeah. And I don't like that they always compare stuff from the past to stuff now. It's like, okay, well, back then, though, computer games were a much more niche thing. Like selling 50 million copies of a video game at a time when gaming was so niche and so, like, not ostracized, but, the term, like, it was looked down upon as a thing for children compared to nowadays where it's just like, oh, it's another form of entertainment. It's like when they compare like music sales. I'm like, oh, the new Taylor Swift album got the most streams of any artist in history. It's like, yeah, because
it's just more accessible now.
Day one, 100 million people can access it pretty much for free by just clicking on a button. That's way different from going out and physically buying an album.
And like every day, more and more people are getting devices and internet access and stuff that will allow them to be able to do that. So naturally, as the market continues to expand, you'll keep breaking records, similar with video games.
Yeah, and that's why
like the video game market is still expanding, and its records get broken every year. Like Spider-Man 2 is, like, according to PlayStation, like their new fastest selling game of all time, and it's like, yeah, that's going to keep happening as like more and more people start gaming.
Yeah, and always feels bad, and that's why some of those records from so long ago that are still, like, the fact that this game that was released at a time when playing a Super Mario game was admittedly very difficult, because you had like, consoles weren't popular, they were expensive, it was a new piece of technology, it was widely like looked down upon by traditional media, they didn't have advertising budgets, it wasn't like the monolithic corporation it is today that basically is like an entire arm of entertainment in of itself.
Yeah, like nowadays gaming's bigger than like movies and TV.
Yeah, and the fact that even then it still sold 50 million copies. Yeah.
Well, no, that, to be clear,
in totality,
it sold 58 million copies across every single console it's released on, which is impressive. And the NES, I did look up, has sold just under 62 million. But we don't know how many copies of that was sold specifically on the NES. And but yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at like 55 point something. So it is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just on the Switch, not even Mario Kart 8. Just Deluxe has sold nearly as much as like 30 something years of Super Mario Bros.
How many copies of Wii Sports? That's the one. Wii Sports is the one, because that came free with every Wii. And they sold
Mario
like 200
Bros,
million fucking Wiis. Oh, that's true,
Super Mario Bros was a pack-in game with Duck Hunt for the NES. And again, I wasn't alive when the NES came out, so like I might get the details wrong of like when it wasn't a pack-in game and stuff. But yeah, I believe it was with Duck Hunt for a while.
Yeah, and we all owe as well, Rob. Whenever you talk about gaming, you've got to pay big respects to Rob, saving gaming.
Rob the robot.
Your robotic operating buddy. Like, if it wasn't for Rob, we'd have no gaming.
Because
he literally saved gaming.
The video game market crashed a few years before Super Mario Bros. Came out, and then the NES was sold as a way to get your toy to play the games.
Yeah, so Rob was
the toy
sold,
was Rob.
Yeah, they sold Rob, and it's not a video game console, it's a toy that plays video games, and that distinction was enough to avoid the stigma that had been attached to video games after the crash of the Atari crash. People point the blame at E.T., which is just like a nice simple way. It's a lot more complicated than that, but ultimately it's part of why it happened, of just too many shitty cash grab games, not enough interest.
The market was just flooded with shovelware in general, and people just lost complete faith in the video game industry in general.
Yeah.
And E.T. is a great big example of one of the biggest letdowns, but
it wasn't
point. Just E.T.
Yeah, it's the tipping point, isn't it? Quite literally, because they tipped them all into a fucking big hole in the desert.
And Super Mario Bros. Is credited alongside the NES as one of the key factors in reviving the video game industry after the 1983 crash, and it also popularized the side-scrolling platform game genre, because it was one of, if not the first example of, when I mentioned earlier, like a single screen game, rather than a game going like, here's one screen, move on to the next.
Yeah,
it had smooth scrolling.
As well, we always bring it up, but was that like phenomenal breakdown that goes around every now and again, like the first screen of Super Mario might be one of the single greatest achievements in video gaming, of like every single aspect of gameplay is taught to you in this first screen. Everything you need to know to play this game is contextually explained, whether you know it or not. Like, you are taught to play everything you need for the game in this first screen.
Exactly, yeah. It's like a perfect mini tutorial at the very start of the first level, and it pretty much just, regardless of, like, no need to tell you with text or anything like that, it just kind of there's been lots of breakdowns. You can go watch one, but yeah, it just forces the player into knowing what's going on almost immediately. And yeah, it's very interesting because like I'll just you go through it here. It's like developers, Nintendo R&D 4. Because, they're very creative with the names of the studios.
Just when they're going to call their company, like, Super Nintendo. Imagine if they rebranded their brand as, like, Super Nintendo.
Maybe that's what can happen if, like, the Switch beats the PS2 in sales. They become Super Nintendo. It's like, yes.
I have seen, like, they've, patented a Switch with 2 screens. It's like clamshell designs are back, baby. And bring back the DS.
I do want it because, like, as much as I enjoy the dual screen gaming, it does then mean porting it to any other system is a fucking ball ache.
It is, yeah.
It's like trying to like go back and play DS and 3DS games now. It's like, well, you can't play them on the Switch. Like, I've got some on the Wii U, but like, I can't buy games on the Wii U anymore, and they barely ported any anyway. Yeah, it just becomes a nightmare going forward for someone who wants to go play like old games. It's
and fair enough, they weren't anticipating that people would still be playing these things 20, 30. In the case of like 85, like nigh on 40 years ago.
Nearly,
40 years ago, this game came, and it still holds up.
Fucking hell. Yeah, it really does. Like, it's so simple that it's hard to not hold up. But obviously, a lot of NES games don't. But it's just how simple, but also precisely controlled.
That's the thing, yeah. It's the precision that does it. Of like, you have so much minutia over the control you have over Mario.
Mm-hmm. And compared to like a lot of games where a lot of games that were platformers back in the day kind of had you commit to a jump, and when you press the jump button,
that's
like
it.
Whatever your momentum was, that's locked in. You've jumped. Whereas Mario, you had that little bit of control and that little bit of slidiness as well.
Yeah, like that's one of those little subtle things of like you jump and you hold forward, you go just forward just a little bit quicker than you would if you held backwards.
Yeah, and it's almost unrivaled at the time in terms of how precise it was, and it's one of the things it was praised for at the time, as well as just, everything fucking else of like the music, the game design, the levels, the creativity.
Well, that's the thing. I would love, if you can get to the reception section, I would love to read dissenting reviews. Well, I love reading dissenting. Like, there are other people out there who are like, no, this sucks.
I'll get to that in a second. I don't know if that happened at all, but we'll find out. But the interesting thing is, like, director, producer, designer, Shigeru Miyamoto. Designers were Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka. Then you got Toshihiko Nakago and Kazuaki Morita for the programmers. And then, again, like, artists, Miyamoto, Tezuka, composers, of course, Koji Kondo, and Koji Kondo just, like, made one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, and then also did that another, like, 80 times. Like, Koji Kondo, just one of the most well-renowned composers of all the video games.
And that's, like, a thing people talk about, isn't it? Of when you have, like, the reverence given to, like, classical composers, like Mozart and, like, Bach and Liszt and stuff like that. It's like, should we, like, be putting people like Koji Kondo in that vein? Should we be putting, like, John Williams in that category of like creating music that has stood the test of time? It's like Mario, that original soundtrack is like nigh on 40 years old now. In 10 years' time, I struggle to think of a world where people don't know the dun. That'll be 50 years old.
Yeah,
that's lasted longer than some beat, like, some music, like some like legendary bands don't have that kind of staying power.
Also, the Legend of Zelda music.
Yep.
Like, the dude's responsible for Mario Bros. And Zelda music. It's like two of the, obviously way expanded upon now, but two of the just most seminal, memorable video game soundtracks of all time.
It's like, should that person be like held in the same kind of regard as like the classical composer? I think they should.
And just going through, it's just like, essentially, most Zelda games up until Twilight Princess, Spirit Tracks and Skyward Sword there as well. Super Smash Bros. Games, obviously, because of the Mario music, and then still working today on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And one of the most interesting things why I thought I'd mention those designers there is apparently, like, 3 of the 4 programmers and designers that worked on Super Mario Bros. Are part of the key team on Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Like 30 odd years later, they're still putting out games with like this core group of people, while also, you know, allowing a lot of younger designers to give all of these ideas. And apparently, like with the Wonder Seeds Super Mario Bros. Wonder, it was just like, if anyone has ideas, just like bring them forward.
Well, that's one of the things.
Go on, go ahead.
I was trying to look for like them as a composer, like their composing credits, and just like, you know, obviously a lot of the Super Mario stuff, but just random stuff that they ended up doing. Like, there's so many TV shows where they just got a credit because they use one of their songs. Like, which is
it's kind of crazy.
Like the Punch Out, Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, the fact that like they went on to just basically spearhead the music for the Super Mario and Zelda series is like, again, yeah, as I say, just 2 of the greatest video game soundtrack libraries of all time.
Yep. You're almost untouchable at that point, aren't you? Like, what the fuck are you actually going to do? Like, they did it when they were like 20.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, they come up with like the Super Mario's theme when they were 20 years old.
And I believe the Legend of Zelda, like Hyrule Field theme was, or the Overworld theme, whatever it's called at the time. It was originally going to be like Bolero, but the copyright hadn't run out on it yet. It wasn't public domain yet. So they just had to scramble together the Zelda theme. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, just scramble that one together.
Just create that. And I love as well, they also did sound effects for a bit, and they did the sound effects from Star Fox.
Oh, that's cool.
So they came up with like the pew, 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 pew. That's them. They made those pew pew noises.
Okay, so it has here reception.
I need to know.
But then also retrospective reception.
See, that's the thing. I don't like... when you look back, it's okay, yeah, like, you need to acknowledge the absolute pivotal moment this was for this entire medium. But I love when you go back and you see those people like, no, I need to be the contrarian. Because I had this the other day when I was researching something for an article about Everything Everywhere All at Once. And like, it says at the top of the page, universal critical acclaim. And then there's like one person at the bottom who's like, actually, it's shit.
Yeah,
actually,
there's one dickhead out there.
It's not very good. And it's like, well, it's like, no, it's not very good. And it's like, okay, cool.
Sure, yeah. Everyone else is wrong, I'm sure.
Yeah, literally every other person who's seen it says this, but like, clearly you noticed something they didn't.
So it has 4 review scores here, Carl, for at the time, the contemporary reception.
Give it, go on,
and
let me know.
I don't know who the fuck Ace is, but like Ace Magazine rating it out of 1,000.
Hey, I like that.
1,000 review points. Like, what is going on?
Out of 1,000, okay.
But they gave it 955 out of 1,000.
That's close. So basically as close to perfect as you can get.
Then Computer and Video Games gave it 95%. The Games Machine UK gave it 89%, and then Top Score gave it 4 stars, I presume, out of 5. So yeah, like, 4 out of 4 stars. So yeah, the only reviews on here are all just like, yeah, this game's pretty fucking great.
And there's not many places reviewing games at the time, which is one of those things, isn't it? What other games came out that year? Like 1986, did you say?
So 85 in Japan and then 87 over here. And the worst reviews I can really find are like, the Game Boy Advance version is like a 3.5 out of 5 stars by All Game, and 80% by Game Rankings, but that's like specifically the GBA version.
And I guess the only reason you get a bad review is like, well, they've not really done much to innovate on the style. Like the classics, untouchable, but like, what have you done with the new hardware?
Yeah, and like the 3DS, like on the 3DS Pocket Gamer gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and GameSpot gave the Wii version an 8.3 out of 10 at the time. And it's like, I guess like, if you're giving it a review score 20, 30 years later, like, you can ding it a little bit for its simplicity, but even then most people are agree, like, it's simple, but it's still like a fucking 8 out of 10 even nowadays. And yeah, there's no real coverage here that says anyone's given it like a negative review.
I do love when you found those things that are like virtually, like, you know, near universally agreed to. There's always that one person that always that contrarian dickhead who thinks that they spot something other people don't.
Oh, yeah, okay, so GameSpot gave the port of the GBA a 6.8 out of 10, praising the gameplay but musing that the port's graphical and technical differences from the original version of the game prevent this reissue from being as super as the original game. So just poor porting work. And it's like, yeah, pretty much no one is out there saying Super Mario Brothers was a bad game all along. And it's like, I don't think you can. But that's the thing, you normally find the one person, don't you?
There's the one person who doesn't like, the example I like to use, it's a more modern example, but there was that very infamous review, the American version of GameSpot, I think it did, or one of those game review websites, did of Football Manager, which is a very popular game, but it's a very niche game compared to something like FIFA. It's not everyone enjoys the management football sim.
It's
people who
literally a management sim game, yeah.
But people who do like it really, really like it. And the review gave it 2 out of 10. And it says well, why would anyone play a game about football where you can't play football? And it's why would anyone? It's a management game.
Yeah. It's many people want to manage the game. That's why the management game exists. It's not to play football. It's why do you think fantasy football exists?
Roller Coaster Tycoon. Why would you play a game about roller coaster that you can't ride the roller coaster? Because sometimes it scratches a specific itch, and if that itch isn't scratched by your mind, but I'd love those. Because you always get that one person it's not for me, and therefore I'm going to review it from my own perspective and not consider that maybe there's people out there who aren't me.
Yeah, and oh god, but I don't think there's much to say other than incredible game and the fact that there's not, apart from bad porting, there's not anybody out there that seemingly even is willing to say Super Mario Bros. Isn't a great game.
Well, what about retroactive reviews then? Has anyone gone back and tried to do the hot take thing? Well, you know what, hot take, this game was never good.
It doesn't seem to have any specific scores or anything here.
Okay. So I've always loved those as well.
A lot of it is contemporary reviews. Is just everyone being this is the greatest game of all time. And there's it's just there's really not much other than just people are just putting it in the best games of all time lists. People didn't like the GBA port. And everyone fucking loves the game. It's, Even the GBA port apparently has an aggregate of 84 on Metacritic.
Fair enough.
And apparently that was the bad version of the game.
I was just curious, your waiters generally, and it's more often, it's not reviewers who do things like this often, because professional reviewers usually do have the ability to view it from someone else's perspective. That's why they're a professional reviewer. It's normally you'll get every now and again someone will be on Twitter of hot take, Fallout New Vegas wasn't very good or something like that. And it's it was. And it is. And it's unavoidable. It's objectively a fantastic game. You cannot like it, but you can't argue that it's not good.
Yeah.
By every metric
and there might be
to measure the quality of this thing, it is very good.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There may be things not mentioned, this reviewer on YouTube said it wasn't very good or whatever, but in the Wikipedia article in front of me right here, there wasn't an example of somebody giving it a bad score.
I do though, every time, because obviously I read Wikipedia a lot, it's a good place to get a grounding on something. So, that's an interesting fact, let's go research more about this. So it just gives you what Wiki Weekends exist. It's nice to have a subject that we might know very much or very little about, but it always gives that nice grounding.
Yes.
The ones where you can clearly tell the person who's been quoted is edited it in for a movie. Where it'll be so-and-so of the New York Times, the Washington Post. Then it'll be this YouTuber, and it's hang on. Hang on.
Notable critic, random guy with 300 subscribers, said that this was the best movie they've ever seen.
Did I ever talk about that, how one of the reasons...
Not to say that people's opinions are invalid, we're obviously just a dumb YouTube channel as well, but you can tell when, that something like a Wikipedia article or as you say, the back of the box reviews are just pulled the most random thing out of nowhere.
I wouldn't think that my reviews of media should hold more value than anyone else's, with the exception of someone who's not as educated on film. Because I literally have a degree in media studies. My ability, I would say, trying to be humble about it, to analyse and deconstruct media is probably better than an average lay person on the street. And I'd argue it's better than most of the YouTubers and content creators who do it because they don't have a degree. Like their ability, they usually say, "Oh, it's like." I think Star Wars is the best example of this. Of like people saying it's shit, and then usually they'll just regurgitate arguments from other people who agree with them, and it's just this like Ouroboros of shit of constantly just repeating and regurgitating the same points as each other, and then constantly trying to one up the extremity of them, whether it be positive or negative. That's why we said earlier in this video, nuance is dead.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is, say for example, if we were both to watch and review the same movie, because of your experience and your qualifications and stuff, like you literally have more time spent breaking down media than I do, so you'll probably like have different insights and maybe pick up on things that I didn't. And
then we have different lived experiences as well. Like we have very similar backgrounds, but even still, the lived experiences we've had will inform how we view media.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, a lot of things are subjective, but at the same time, say, for example, reviewing a video game, like there are objective things you can break down, like how well is the game designed, like in terms of like level design, like we're talking about Mario 1-1 of like the perfect level design, and like how does the game run, how does the game control, how does the game sound, like there are objective things that you can break down, but then there's also subjectivity within that.
If like, do you find this particular gameplay style engaging? Do you find this art style to be engaging? And that's the skill of a good reviewer of balancing those two things, the things that you find engaging and then getting them across to someone else, and then also the things that you need to objectively look at, like mechanical aspects, where like less subjectivity should be involved, like the mechanical complexity and the skill with which systems and stuff are realized.
And yeah, it turns out that pretty much everybody that has some level of degree of what they're talking about seems to agree that Super Mario Bros. Pretty damn great game.
There's going to be someone in the comments who's like, you know what, I never liked it. Completely ignoring the context of like how revolutionary it was at the time.
You know what, it's fine for you to not like it. Yep. That's okay. But to then, like, it's very different to then say it's a bad game.
That's the thing. People say, I don't like it, therefore it's not good. And the thing we always say is you can like things that aren't good, and you can dislike things that are. Because that's your opinion, and you can't be wrong about your own opinion. But you need to be aware of like the context with which this thing exists. Like your opinion, like you are not the avatar of reality. Like you can have like your opinion can have more weight to it based on whether or not you have like a specific insight into this subject. But the amount of times on the internet something is like, I don't like it, therefore it's bad, or I don't. Yeah. We saw. I think we mentioned the Sonic thing. Like one person just really likes this series, and therefore any criticism is an attack on them.
It's like, no, it's not. And, it's very hard to look at everybody on, this article going, Mario Bros. Is a fantastic game, one of the greatest games of all time, like near universal agreement. So, like, it's hard to make the argument that it's bad. You might just not like it.
Then that's the thing. And that's why it gets funnier the longer it goes on. Because, our old podcast we did, I always find those hot takes, and these would always crap me up. I'm like, look, guys, it's time we talked about Final Fantasy VII wasn't that good.
It's like, I don't like it that much, but it still was a great RPG at the time. And yeah, we could go on about this all day, so we will leave you all there and let us know which wiki won this week.
And also, if you want to see us break down media and discuss something, like next week we'll be doing that with Spider-Man 2, the video game.
We will indeed. And just, again, warning that will be full spoilers.
Massive spoilers.
You have been warned, and we will warn you at the start of next week's podcast to remind you, but don't click on it, get halfway through, and get mad that we spoiled something. Like, you have been warned.
People always
this is going to happen.
I always get so baffled when someone gets mad that you spoil something when you tell them you're going to spoil it.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I thought we'd give people a little bit of time and a bit of warning to go ahead and get that Spider-Man finish. But thank you all for listening, and I hope everyone has a lovely day.
Yes, go out there and all have the day you deserve. Cheers.
Thank you.